Welcome back to Muppets in Space, a Farscape rewatch podcast on the Incomparable. Tonight we're covering Season 1, Episode 7, PK Tech Girl, and Episode 8, That Old Black Magic. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me once again, as always, my fellow co host, who I'm pretty sure is not some magical being out for my soul, Jason Johnson.
I'm good for now. I might go for some life force later, but I'm good for right now.
A little takeout later.
Yeah. Just a little Chinese, a little life force. It'll be all right.
And I guess until otherwise notified, as our ever present reminder, we are following the Wikipedia episode order for season 1 instead of Amazon Prime, as Amazon's a little out of whack by doing air date, not production date. Alright, so season 1, episode 7, PK Tech Girl. Moya comes across a Peacekeeper ship lying dead in space. Crichton and Zan want to leave in case whoever did that is still around somewhere. Dargo, however, wants to go check their data for possible charts back to their homeworlds, and Erin says she needs to know the name of the ship. Rigel says it's the Zelbinian, the most feared ship in the Peacekeeper Armada. Well, I guess it used to be. They dock with it, and Erin, Crichton, and Dargo go over to investigate. They search around the ship, but Rigel is anxious about being docked to it because it was the first ship he was tortured and imprisoned on after being deposed as Dominar. Crichton comes across a console with the lights on, and Erin says that someone must have turned it back on recently. He spots a young woman who tries to run away, but Aaron and Dargo attack her until Crichton stops them. The woman, who we learn is a peacekeeper technician named Jelena, recognizes them all as escaped prisoners. Crichton asks how she knows that, and Aaron replies that she's a tech from Crais' ship, the ship that Aaron used to be on. Aaron questions her in the usual peacekeeper fashion, more like a drill sergeant addressing a recruit, but Crichton says to give her a break. Aaron says because she's from Crais' ship, he must be nearby, and she will only lie to buy them time for Crais to return. Meanwhile, Rigel is still refusing to go over to the Zelbinian, so Zan tells him that it would do him a lot of good to go confront his demons. Jelena tells the others that Crais sent her unit over, and 2 days later, another ship appeared and destroyed their marauder. Dargo says it's the Sheyangs, but they couldn't have done all the damage, and they find out that there are no records because the ship's data stores have been thoroughly scavenged. Jelena then thanks Crichton for stopping Aaron from killing her. Rigel finally does go over to the Zelbinian, and while he's over there, he spits in Jelena's face, showing his hatred of the Peacekeepers. He goes off exploring and encounters a mean-looking Peacekeeper that says hello and welcomes him home. The others come across a dead body, a Sheang victim who was part of Jelena's unit. Aaron recognizes him and asks what he was doing guarding her, and she says that Aaron's whole unit was demoted after her defection and can only be reinstated upon her death, which kind of seems rather harsh. Meanwhile, Pilot has spotted a ship, which Zan confirms is a Sheyang vessel hiding just outside sensor range. Aaron asks Jelena why the Sheyangs are back and calls her a traitor because she knew they would return. Jelena says she's no traitor, and Crichton breaks it up, telling Jelena that Aaron is no traitor either, but Crais gave her no chance like the one they are giving her. She tells him that she hid while the Sheyangs were scavenging everything. Dargo returns to Moya, where Zan is anxious to leave since Moya has no weapons. Dargo says the Sheyangs are cowards. Where they see strength, they flee, and where they see weakness, they destroy. Crichton, Aaron, and Jelena are trying to get the Zelbinians' shields operational, and Crichton seems to understand what Jelena's trying to do. The Sheyangs begin the weapons countdown. Dargo gets enraged that they have no offensive weaponry, and while he's stomping around yelling and screaming, Zan gets Pilot to transmit that image of him to the Sheyangs. When the Sheyangs see the enraged Luxon, they kind of panic and they immediately terminate their countdown. Crichton informs everyone that they can get the shields working, but it'll take 4 Arns, or hours as we would call it. Zan convinces Dargo to keep misleading the Sheyangs to give them time Crichton and Jelena need to fix the shields. The Sheyangs don't believe Dargo has any soldiers with him who are aboard the Zelbanian. Zan keeps trying to help Dargo by prompting him, but the Sheyang says he's trying his patience, and Dargo believes their next conversation will bring on an attack. Crichton and Jelena are getting close to repairing the shields. Rigel has gone back to Moya and is hiding, having visions of his torturer, a peacekeeper named Captain Durka. Zan tells him Durka is long dead, but Rigel says he's not dead to him. Zan says he must find Durka's corpse because it will help set him free. Meanwhile, back on the Shang ship, one of the Shangs overthrows their leader, Turak, and orders them to fire on Moya. Crichton, Jelena, and Aaron manage to get the shields activated just in time. However, a pilot informs them that the shields are not fully operational. It has several weak spots because it's really two systems overlaid on top of each other, and they only have one operational. Jelena agrees to help them as they helped her and will help install the other part of the shield on Moya. Later, she and Crichton are talking and they end up kissing just as Aaron walks in, of course. She's clearly jealous and angry but tries not to show it and storms off. Crichton, seeing her reaction, goes after her and asks her if she's ever just clicked with someone. She replies that yes. At first, she found Crichton quite interesting, but only for a moment, and that clearly surprises Crichton. Meanwhile, the Shayangs launch a bunch of troop pods, trying to breach the holes in the shield. One Shayang pod manages to breach through to the Zilbinian. Aaron finds that Shayang, but he shoots a fireball from his mouth at her, apparently. Aaron dodges it, but gets cut off from reaching Crichton and needs to go around the long way to get to them. Meanwhile, the Shayang attempts to burn down the door to the room where Crichton and Jelena are working, and eventually manages to get in. He shoots a fireball, which Crichton manages to evade. Then Aaron shows up and shoots him, which makes him explode and rain down in flaming body parts. Back on Moya, Crichton wants the others to let Jelena stay and get picked up by Crais, but the others don't want to give Crais another reason to come after them. Crichton says he's going to come one day anyway, and promises Dargo and Zan that Jelena will keep their presence a secret, and surprisingly, Aaron agrees. She says that Jelena could also be deemed irreversibly contaminated, the penalty for which is death, or worse, exile, just like she was. Aaron says Jelena won't tell Crais anything about them. The Shayangs detect the command carrier on its way at maximum speed, and Dargo tells them he's sorry that they're leaving. His officers were preparing revenge. The Shayang smiles and says he knows he has nothing, but he used that well. Aaron tells Jelena that Crais will ask her many questions, and she says that she'll lie to him. Aaron mutters she wishes she had been that smart. Jelena says to Crichton that she'll never see him again, but Crichton insists they will someday, and they have a nice kiss before she leaves. Later, Crichton goes to see Aaron, who says she hates being ambushed. She says he got him in the end, but she didn't mean the Shayang on the ship. On her world, showing pain is a sign of weakness, and he should not presume to understand her. He says that though she always bashes him for being weak all the time, this time it's an advantage. He knows how she feels. She insists that it's impossible for him to know how she feels, and Crichton asks what it would be like for him if one day he finally gets to return home to Earth, and upon walking into his home, found his dad, friends, and all his family lying there dead. Aaron says she stands corrected and walks out of the room, leaving John alone with his thoughts. A couple pieces of trivia about this episode. This was the first episode filmed on its own, and I think we mentioned this before on a previous podcast, but before they were filmed two at a time, back to back. This change was made partly due to an upcoming holiday, and the creator of Farscape, Rockne O'Bannon, noted that shooting episode 7 by itself became the only viable way to shoot and not lose days. When the film came in, it was much better. The crew was less stressed. The actors were less stressed because they weren't having to learn two scripts at the same time, and it became immediately apparent that it made a lot more sense to shoot the episodes individually. Jelena was originally meant to die aboard the Zilbinian, but the executive producer, David Kemper, wanted a love story, and he stated, "This isn't just a science fiction show, it's a show about people." And finally, this episode was apparently the first ever broadcast. It was shown as a sneak peek by the Sci Fi Channel on March 12th, 1999, just before the series began.
That seems like it would be a little confusing if you just started with this one, but I guess it does make a good sneak peek if you are just looking for the gist of the characters.
Yeah, because there was a lot of good character development in this episode. But yeah, I guess I guess you couldn't really show the first episode as a sneak preview because then people really wouldn't get it.
No, it just makes you wonder, how much character development do people even understand if they don't know where they started? That'd be sci-fi did a lot of things that didn't make a lot of sense, and I'm not sure that which way this way one falls, but the show did get to premiere, so we'll call it successful.
Yeah, I mean, probably was going to air anyway, so maybe this is just to whet people's appetite. And I don't know, I don't have any stats on how it did or not, but hey, the show ran for 4 years, right? So I guess it must have worked. So one of the things that I had to go look up, because obviously they have their own time scale in Farscape, like Battlestar Galactica had yarns and centons and all that kind of stuff. So apparently the Zilbinian was missing for 100 cycles that they say. I went and looked up like how long is a cycle in Farscape, and they came back. It said a cycle is a year. So this ship's been missing for 100 years, which kind of sounds strange. And then Rigel says he was overthrown 130 cycles ago before going to the Zilbinian to be tortured. So Rigel has been a prisoner and a deposed leader for 130 years? Really? Like, how old is how old do Hynerians live, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad you looked that up because I missed that. I just immediately took cycles to be days and rolled with it. And you looking back, it's like that probably doesn't work because that like makes everything too short. They would have only been prisoners for a short amount of time. I didn't know if they were recent prisoners or what, but You know, if again, if he's been there for 130 years and the ship's been missing for 100, then does that mean their tech doesn't advance that much over 100 years? But also, like you say, Rigel's been in prison for a long time. So I guess I just took it to be a lot shorter period of time, and it seems like it was a lot longer than I even took into scope.
Yeah, because they said also that they also measure time by like, half cycle, quarter cycle, and one of the episodes, I'm not sure if it's already previous or in the future, or whatever, they're saying like Dargo says it's been like a quarter cycle, and John says yeah, it's 3 months or something. So yeah, okay. So there you go. Timekeeping in Farscape.
Well, it's good to have a metric, I guess.
Yeah, and it's cool too. I mean, I like when shows have their own lingo, their own language that you get to learn as it goes. Like, they have their own swear words, which they've done a couple, and the one that at least I remember is Frel, which is starts with F. I'm like, you know what that means. Uh, so that's always nice to, it's kind of like Battlestar Galactica had frack, same idea. So I love that. And I love when they have their own, timekeeping or other words that they throw in to make it seem like, yes, this definitely is a sci-fi show. It's not Earth.
Well,
It's not what we're used
and
to.
that makes sense, right? I mean, we base all our time around Earth cycles, rotations and orbits and things like that make no sense in a different galaxy. So why would their time measurement be anywhere close to ours, much less the same terminology?
Although, if you want to think about it, how come those translator microbes don't translate those words into English? But whatever, we won't. It's still cool. We don't care.
It's
We
atmosphere,
won't
man. We
nitpick
need
that.
some atmosphere. It's a
That's
space
right.
show. It requires atmosphere.
Yeah, since they can't breathe outside the ship, right? Yeah, atmosphere, right?
Well, there's atmosphere everywhere because we've proven that they can breathe everywhere they go. But that's beside the point too.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be a boring show. They walk out the planet, they die because they can't breathe. So yeah,
Or they're always in spacesuits, and that's A, expensive, and B, you can't see characters' faces. So
yeah, which we haven't seen yet, and I can't remember from what I do remember about this show if they ever did that. But I guess we'll find out as we go. One of the things I guess we kind of joked about last time, and actually the characters kind of did too, is that Dargo and Crichton say that it's been a while since they've been with the women, or with with the women, with women, with the women, right? Uh, However, these last couple episodes seem to have taken care of that. Dargo had that last time on the Thank God It's Friday again, and they didn't really explicitly say anything this episode, but sounds like Crichton and Jelena were a little closer than they appeared on the screen.
yeah, I mean, I think they've been pretty clear that these relationships happen in space, right? So these characters are covered. I'll probably mention it in other places, but I get a little confused, I think, on the writer's intent because I guess I go into these shows expecting romantic tension between the main characters, and it is interesting to me that these writers have gone out of their way. I mean, we're what, episode 7? And Crichton's been in relationships on multiple encounters. It's like every time they run into another civilization or another person in space, it's he and Dargo are taking turns on who's going to have the romantic interest, and it just kind of is interesting to me. I mean, they did at least call out the Aaron relationship here, but I wonder how long they're going to stretch that.
Yeah, and I guess it's the first time, at least on the side of Erin, that she admits to being interested, or she finds John interesting. So it's kind of like the first hints at the love interest, possibly, between the two of them.
Yeah, and again, I guess I look at a lot of TV, the way they frame a lot of these scenes and stuff, and I don't know if it's the 4:3 aspect ratio or they're trying to cram as much stuff on camera as possible, but the characters are always really close, and so that always jumps out at me as I guess I read more into it than the show may want you to.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of comes with, yeah, the because this is still, yeah, what you're saying, filmed in 4:3. It wasn't letterboxed or HD back then. They didn't have that in '99. And I guess we learn that apart from Jelena being part of Aaron's, well, not unit, I guess she was on the ship, so Aaron must have recognized her, which I don't know how big these ships are, how big the crew is, but okay, Aaron recognizes her. And apparently we learned that her entire unit, because that was one of the people guarding Jelena that she found that was dead on the ship, apparently that they can only get reinstated. They're all demoted by Crais, and they can only get reinstated after Aaron's dead. That's kind of harsh.
Yeah, he does seem to be the petty, dictatorish captain. So not terribly surprising as we learn more about his character as we go. But yeah, definitely petty and harsh, and it's going to hold unrealistic standards, I think.
Yeah, and he is out for revenge apparently, not apparently, but that's what he said in the original episode, the pilot episode, and what we'll see next episode. Spoiler, not that we'll get there, that, yeah, pretty much he's coming for him no matter what, and so he's gonna ignore, he's gonna do whatever he wants to do just to stay out there and hunt Crichton down. So it definitely is keeping with his character so far.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I did miss on my first watch that the 2 day timeline that they'd been on the ship, because that puts him right there on top of them. I mean, I thought they had a lot more breathing room, and it sounds like they're within a couple days of each other now at this point. So not a lot of room to dodge around each other, considering how large space is, right?
Yeah, and it's not exactly clear just where any of these planets are anyway. Plus, they're in the unknown regions or uncharted territories, or whatever they call it. So it's must be uncharted for a reason, like it's really big or it's really dangerous, so that not a lot of people go out this way, or at least not the peacekeepers anyway. But yeah, apparently he's doing a pretty good job at getting near where they are, accidentally or not, right? I mean, they don't know they're around here. They're just out exploring the ship, but that just happens to be right where Moya and company are.
Yeah, and we may get there on a different episode. I don't know if they ever get into it, but I don't feel like I have a good grasp yet of rate of speed. How fast does the crew travel versus how fast do the peacekeeper vessels travel, and how well are they keeping up with each other? I mean, we've got starburst, but I don't know how that relates to a certain speed, constant, or any of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of just loose. They're around each other in these unknown regions, but I don't really know that I have a map yet of how far apart they are at any of these episodes.
Yeah, they're still building out, I guess, that part of how space travel works for those kind of ships. And obviously, Moya is different because she's organic versus the peacekeeper ships, which are more mechanical. So yeah, we don't know if they have the same drive, speed. Obviously, Moya has starburst. Do the peacekeeper ships have some kind of starburst equivalent or warp drive, whatever you want to call it? Like you said, we'll find out probably. I guess another kind of fun character development kind of areas with the Shayangs and Dargo and Zan when when John's like, keep him busy while we got, we need 4 hours to fix the shields, go stall them, do something. And basically all they can do is talk to them on the view screen. So Dargo doesn't want to lie to them. I guess that's, the Lux and Honor thing again. And then Zan's like, next to him, like trying to convince him, no, no, you're not lying, you're just misdirecting.
Yeah, which I think as you pointed out in an earlier conversation we had about it, that's a solid military tactic. So it's kind of funny that his warrior race puts the honor in front of the effect of the combat tactic. But once again, Zan's proven that she's the competent member of the crew, right? Everybody kind of has their part to play, and she's the one who actually can get the job done, where everybody else gets hung up on their own little moral issues.
Yeah, she seems more grounded of the crew. Like either it's because of her priest upbringing or training or whatever. She's got more of a focused view, or like a realistic view, I should say, on things. She knows, if you're gonna talk to these guys for 4 hours, you're gonna have to say something to lie or bulk up. Like, yeah, we got a ton of Luxons on this ship, and they're just waiting to jump over there and kill you if you come over here. But we're not gonna do that right now because whatever. Just you have to keep BSing them. You have to keep lying, do something. And then apparently, she also, when Dargo was flipping out, screaming, yelling, stomping around, she had them project that over to the ship, and the Shangs were like, oh no, it's a Luxon, to stop the countdown, stop shooting.
Yeah, I know it's a show that came a good bit later, and I've probably made more references to it than I should in these podcasts, but I keep equating her to Inara in my head from Firefly, because that character just seems so. Part of it's the priest thing, I guess, but the other is just the competent character when everybody around them is so hilariously incompetent, right? So it it always just the straight man's always a good one to have, and she does a good one in this episode especially.
Yep, she's the I guess the calming influence for the crew, right? And I guess another funny thing I liked about this episode about the Shayangs, I guess if you breathe fire, you must have some kind of flammable gas inside you or something. So when Aaron shot him, he like exploded, and there were like flaming pieces of Shayang kind of falling slowly like all over the room.
Yeah, that's a great hilarious effect, but it makes you wonder, did they not encounter that in battle before and think about it? But yeah, I think I'd be pretty concerned about getting shot at if I had the potential to explode. But
Yeah, although throw a couple fireballs around, everybody runs away, right? So, but not always. Sometimes they shoot back. I guess some more character development on the crew. Rigel. Apparently, we learn more about him. That he was, like we said before, captured. After he was deposed, from Hyneria. He was apparently tortured. This is the first ship he was tortured on, 100 and whatever years ago. And it was nice that see him getting some closure by finding Durka's office and kind of having that like closure conversation scene, and then him leaving, and that's all we ever see of him. We don't see much of him after that.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think this was, of all the episodes we've watched so far, this is the most character development we get for Rigel, which was nice. I don't know how much they'll carry forward. Will it affect his character going in future episodes? But up till now, he's been in a lot of the episodes and had some jobs. But this is the first time I think we've seen something where he actually had closure of a life event. So it'd be interesting to see how that does moving forward. If they have it carry forward, or if it was just kind of a fill us in on what he's been through type of visibility.
Yeah, because up to this point, he's more or less been like the comic relief. Like, he's, stealing something from people and then saying, no, he didn't steal it. Or he's, constantly, we make a comment every time he's, eating nonstop, stuffing his face full of food. He's a glutton. So it was nice to see him actually get some dramatic range this time versus, just being the conniving, sniveling comedian kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's been imprisoned. We've seen him, be the diplomat to the cockroaches. He's done some useful stuff, but this was, I think, the first time we've had a closure of a historic event, so that's good.
Yeah. Anything else about
No, I
episode
think
7?
we've talked about that one. I think overall, I really enjoyed the episode. I think we'll spoiler alert. I think we'll say that about both of these because both of these were pretty smooth, good episodes in my opinion. But yeah, let's move on to episode 8, that old black magic.
Okay.
So we open up with the crew visiting a commerce planet, again looking for supplies. That seems to be a recurring theme. And this time that includes a cure for Rigel's flu. A merchant named Liko tells Zan that he has just what they need. But meanwhile, Crichton encounters a jester who approaches him saying he knows a lot of things about him, including that he's looking for a way back to Earth and is being hunted by the Peacekeepers. The jester then says that the person who can help is named Haloth and that he should follow him. Crichton is intrigued and all of a sudden is transported to a room by Haloth, who simply says that he wished him there. Crichton asks Haloth what else he can do, but he responds that he can't send him home or even point him in the right direction. But he talks about Crais, who wants revenge on Crichton for his brother's death. Crichton says if he could only tell him and make Crais understand. Haloth then says that he could let Crichton talk to Crais and disappears before Crichton can ask any more questions. Meanwhile, Crais receives a communication from Peacekeeper High Command containing orders for him to stop the pursuit of the escaped Leviathan, leave the uncharted territories, and return to Peacekeeper Command for new orders. Lieutenant Teague confirms that she was ordered to observe the message in case Crais attempts to disobey, upon which she should remove him from command, but says that until that time her loyalty is to her captain, and leaves. Haloth appears and brings Crais to his chamber, where he shows him Crichton and says Crais can have him, but at a price. Dargo and Aaron find Crichton unconscious, and she tells him to go get Zan. Haloth tells Crichton that he has bad news and transforms into another person named Maldrus and brings Crais to him. Meanwhile, Dargo's found a girl who saw Crichton with someone, and Liko knows that it was Maldrus. Crais tells Crichton he's here to kill him and attacks him with one of the spears in Maldrus's chamber. Crais manages to slash Crichton's hand, and in reality, Zan finds Crichton with the same slash on his hand. Liko says Maldrus is an evil sorcerer that feeds off pain and death. He taps into others' life energy. He invaded this planet and killed off half its population, subjugating the rest. He says Maldrus is invincible, and before Maldrus came, Liko was a high priest, but his powers were not strong enough to defeat Maldrus. Zan asks him to guide her to use her abilities to hurt Maldrus. He says to do so, she must have the intent to hurt him, maybe even kill. He says she's not capable of that. She grabs his face and angrily says she once was. Maldrus tells Crichton that Crais offered him bigger stakes than Crichton could. Now Crais is here, so he must deal with him. Crais attacks Crichton, but Crichton tells him he didn't murder his brother. He turns the attack around on him and has Crais where he could kill him, but insists it was an accident and lets Crais go. Zan forces herself to hurt a beast, but she can't finish it off. She says she's evolved past the hatred to hurt others. Liko says nope, she's merely suppressed those feelings, and she's just scared of them. She says she thought that the thought that she could destroy Maldrus terrifies her. Back to Crichton, he explains to Crais what really happened, and he says Crais knows his pod was inferior to the Prowler. Crais says he charged it, but Crichton says that's not true. Maldrus appears and shows Crais his father, who calls Balar and Tuavo to him because the recruiter is here to pick them up. He tells Balar to stay close to Tuavo and protect him. Balar promises to, but before the Peacekeepers take him away, Crichton realized that Crais and his brother, the two people we've been seeing, didn't choose to be Peacekeepers, but were forced to as children and were taken from their home and family. Crais insists that being chosen for a Peacekeeper duty was a great honor, but is clearly hurt by the memory. Another vision shows Tuavo saying that it's an honor for him to serve with his brother. Crichton wants Maldus to stop this, but Maldus then shows Tuavo dead and blames Crichton for it. This enrages Crais, and the chase is back on. Zahn tells Aaron and Dargo that she can stop Maldus, but she wants another option even though she knows there isn't one. She is upset that she will have to use her evil to destroy another evil, but she knows she has no other choice. Crichton tells Crais that Maldus is feeding off of them, and that he thrives off of Crais' desire for Crichton's death. Crichton asks Crais to listen and says he understands that he is torturing himself because he should have protected Tuavo, but it was an accident. Crais says it doesn't matter, that Tuavo must be avenged, and swears Crichton will die at his hands. Maldus admits that he feeds off the life force of others, and death is like the main course. Zahn apologizes to Liko, and when Rigel complains over the comm about his remedy, they join and cause Rigel pain together. Zan says that part of her enjoyed it. Crichton is still trying to reason with Crais, saying that he won't be satisfied if Maldus kills him, and suggests a truce and that they work together. Crais pretends to agree, but then attacks him again. Rigel performs the Himerian ceremony of passage on Crichton's body and declares him dead, claiming all of his possessions. Maldus is getting low on energy and tries to get Crichton to kill Crais, saying that if he does, he'll let Crichton go. Crichton gives in and agrees he's done talking to Crais and will kill him. Maldus leads Crais to Crichton and they begin to fight. At that time, Zan and Liko start their ritual, but as Crichton is almost ready to kill Crais, Maldus sends him back to his command carrier. He says he finally got Crichton to do what he wanted. The carrier will bring death on a massive scale. Maldus goes to kill Crichton, but Zan appears to stop him, saying she made him tangible, and Crichton punches him, turning him to dust. Crichton wakes up on Moya with Rigel, who says he just saved his life. Crichton kisses him out of happiness to be back. Liko is dying from helping Zan, but before he passes, he thanks her for helping the greater good. On his ship, Crais tells his doctor to omit this incident from his logs, and he won't report his utter failure to diagnose and treat him while he was away. He asks Lieutenant Teague if they had any other communications from High Command, and she confirms that no one else knows he has been recalled. He kills her, with breaking her neck with ease. Crais then calms Lieutenant Orn to go deeper into the uncharted territories. Zan tells the crew that they merely dispersed Maldus, and that he will be back together someday. Aaron apologizes for mocking her courage, and she says Zan's more of a warrior than she ever thought. This disturbs Zan, and she hastily leaves. Aaron then asks Dargo what's wrong, and he says that by calling her a warrior, she could not have cut her more deeply. Crichton makes a recording for DK. Hey, DK, that was Crichton's best friend from back home. Remember him? Saying he could convince Crais he thought he could convince Crais of the truth if they spoke face to face, but now he doesn't think Crais will stop until one of them is dead. Zahn tells Crichton that before she became a priest, she was a savage. She thought she'd never have to resurrect that again. He says that she had to in order to defeat Maldus, but she can once again suppress those feelings. She says she doesn't think she can. John asks if he can help and moves towards her, but she holds up her hand and Crichton jerks away in pain. In a disturbing tone, she tells them none of them can help her. She apologizes and leaves while Crichton looks shocked at what happened. Some interesting trivia for this episode. For all you Shakespeare nerds, Halos spoke in iambic pentameter, a style of verse which appears in many of Shakespeare's plays. Also, the producers were concerned about the credibility of their main characters, which is what led to Crais not appearing after the premiere until this episode. Quote, "We didn't want him to be like the character of Lieutenant Gerard in the Fugitive TV series, who's on the trail of our hero. If he keeps missing our people every week, it diminishes him as a threat. But if he catches them, or our people escape, for some reason he decides to let our people go, then he's not much of a villain." Also, Virginia Hay, who plays Zan, counts this episode among her favorites. Also, Brian Norris, the stunt coordinator, spent 2 hours coordinating the fight between Crais and Crichton before the cameras could begin rolling. And last of note, I'll mention that Pilot does not appear in this episode at all. So, what do you think, Eric? Thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, like you had said about the past episode, yeah, these two are awesome. These are some of the best ones we've seen so far, especially this one, because because this one's just full of backstory, character development. You know, we have our big bad again, Crais, which is cool. They explained, at least in the trivia, that why we haven't seen him since episode one. So you kind of want to dole him out every so often as a little hook, you know.
Yeah, I kind of equated that to I never can remember the name of the character, but the general who's always chasing the A team, right? At a certain point, you don't they're no longer a threat because you know that if when they do show up, it's an easy escape because the show's got to keep running. So it's neat to have the character reintroduced, and then the plot device obviously gives them a good way to send him back to his ship. Again, we still don't know how far apart we are, but they still get to, it still has that impending threat on the horizon that we're gonna have to resolve. So that's a really neat way to keep it going.
And I guess speaking of that, that's obviously the main focal point of this entire episode is, Crichton and Crais together in the same room, not really physically, but I guess mentally, whatever, whatever Maldus did to them. But, they get to finally just have it out, verbally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah, it was all over the map. I definitely really enjoyed it. I'm glad we also mentioned the choreography because I thought that a lot of the compared to some of the stuff we've seen even in this show and others, TV shows of the time, I think they did a good job on the fights and I was never terribly confused about what was going on. I kind of was able to follow the fights, which sometimes that gets lost, especially in TV shows. But it did have me also questioning, did Maldus have a way to not just feed off of, but maybe also enhance the character's feelings? Because there were a couple points where you think it logically Crichton should have been able to make sense and break through to Crais, and that never happened. If anything, they kind of regressed and were even more at odds than we were before. I don't know. I just thought maybe that might be a cool power that they didn't really emphasize, but might have been going on.
Yeah, they did kind of dance around it to some degree because when they were standing, when Crichton and Crais, when Crichton and Crais were, yes, say that
That
five
sounds like
times
a
fast, right?
sitcom right there, Crichton and Crais.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, the odd couple. No, that's already been done. But yeah, when they were standing off on each other against each other, and Crichton almost got through to him. He's like, "Look, my stupid little janky pod. There's no way that could stand up to your prowler. It was an accident. It was. I'm sorry. I didn't. If I could reverse it, I would." And you can see it in his face. He's almost, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then, yeah, that's when Maldus throws the vision of Crais and his brother back when they were young, getting conscripted by the Peacekeepers, and then later kind of prays off of that older brother, Crais, against his younger brother. You have to protect your younger brother. You got to watch out for him. Now whether Crais got his brother onto his command by pulling string because he was a captain, or if it just lucked out that way. But yeah, I'm sure Crais feels guilty that he couldn't protect his baby brother. That his baby brother's dead. This guy did it. I have to get revenge whether I want to or not. That's just whether it's cultural or whatever. Or Maldus got him whipped into a frenzy or whatever. But then yeah, it's over at that point. Crais is like, I'm done. I'm gonna kill you. I don't care.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point because seeing Crais' backstory, I just didn't realize in my brain this was a militaristic society and they were trained from childhood to be soldiers. And here we see that no, they were these brothers were conscripted or their father signed them up or one way or another. It wasn't a voluntary thing. It was almost a surprise or a unexpected event for them to be enlisted. And I thought that was an interesting shift in the way I perceive the peacekeeper culture.
Yeah, or if it's like they go to school, they take tests, and then the Peacekeeper Command looks at the results, like, oh, these are qualified people to become peacekeepers or whatever. But it did make you really feel for Crais. Crais isn't just this mustache twirling, bad guy that's just out for revenge because he's evil. It's guilt. He didn't protect his brother, and that's what you're supposed to do. The older kid's supposed to protect the younger kids, right? In any kind of family.
Yeah, and saying that out loud, I just kind of jumped on the fact that this reminds me a lot of, at least not maybe the enlistment part, not the characters themselves, of Ender's Game, because you've got a society that shows up with this kids and enlists them. So again, may or may not hold up, but that just jumped in my head.
And I guess also not the mustache twirling part, but just understanding his psyche that he's going to come after Crichton at all costs. I didn't quite see it coming like the second time in the last scene where his second in command's like, no one else knows anything. Okay, good. And he just like snaps her neck, dead. I, I I guess it probably would have happened back in that first scene, at the first part of the episode, if she said, "Yeah, I told Peacekeeper Command, yeah, we'll come right back," and he's like, "No, no, you're not." Click.
Yeah, that one caught me off guard too. I was really expecting him to be like, okay, good, we're not going to tell anybody, and she'd be his confidant, and instead, no, I guess he finds it easier to hide a body than to worry about her talking.
Yeah, because you kind of wonder how he's going to explain that to the new second in command when he brings that guy in or something. It's like, hey, Bob, I don't know, she just fell over. I don't know what happened. I don't- or he's going to be the big evil guy and be like, she tried to kill me. I killed her. Take her away. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely a Vader field promotion, right? Okay, now you're the admiral or whatever. So hopefully you serve better, right? There also were a lot of insights, in my opinion, into the Peacekeeper High Command in this episode, because since we really haven't seen Crais, we haven't really seen a lot of what official Peacekeeper philosophy is or policy is on pursuing them. And we see here that they actually don't have any interest in pursuing the Leviathan. They want to call him back. And Crais is going to Captain Ahab and go out on his own. But at the same time, it just makes me even more interested in what Peacekeeper High Command is actually up to, and what is their society like? We've seen the Terra Brute and how their weapons are made and all the different tentacles that they seem to have into all these societies, even in these unknown regions. But it'd be nice to kind of see even more about what they're up to, and do they have a higher part to play in the plot besides just this one rogue captain?
Yeah, it's like, going back to the Star Wars analogy, are they the Empire? Are they subjugating other societies or planets, or are they like what they are, peacekeepers? Are they like the police or the military of this set of worlds or whatever? But then, yeah, apparently we do have at least some leeway for Crais. They must have given him some time to go hunt down Crichton or the escaped criminals in Moya. And then like, okay, you've been gone for however many months or cycles or half cycles, as we learned last episode. But yeah, now is it okay? You've had your chance. It's not working out. Time to come back home.
Yeah, now they're cycling back to another place, right?
Yeah, he's being redeployed now that he's incompetent and can't capture 5 escaped prisoners.
Yeah, I definitely like the Star Wars analogy there. It does make you wonder, is that a marketing ploy? Is the Peacekeeper's name just, somebody in marketing got a gold star that day? Or is that actually, was it our job description? Or was it originally a job description and we just progressed past peacekeeping to something worse? Did they start out good? I can make up a whole backstory here if I just keep going. So
Yeah, and it's fun to play around that kind of world until you learn otherwise. But I guess speaking of were they always that way or changed, we'll learn more about Zan. That apparently she wasn't always a priest because she says she was a savage before she was a priest. So also playing around with writing my own backstory or whatever. Maybe that's when she was the self-proclaimed anarchist that she said she was arrested for or part of what she was in prison for.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of good points there. I mean, we get the ending with Crichton where she actually used pain to get him to back off. So obviously she's changed, right? I mean, from the beginning of the episode where she was unwilling to even cause pain to a creature in a cage. I don't know what that thing was supposed to be, a bird or whatever.
Yeah, some kind of like two-headed bird that was, yeah, just minding its own business, just being a happy little bird,
Yeah,
and then
and
yeah,
then she progressed to causing pain at quite a distance to Rigel to on a whim just to get Crichton to leave her alone, invoking pain. So hopefully they'll continue picking that up and we'll see more of it. But she definitely should have been changed going forward from this episode, and probably not in a good way.
yeah. I mean, that's almost too good of an arc or a story arc to pass up if you're a writer for the show. And yeah, I mean, Crichton, I don't want to say I guess he was kind of naive. He's like, well, you did what you had to do to, save us from Maldus, but now you can just block that away. You just put it away now, no problem. Just forget all about it and move on. And she's like, no, you don't get it. I can't just, flip a switch.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting to see where they go from there for sure.
Yeah, because it's great seeing like her evolution through the episode. She knew she had to do this. She didn't want to. Just the conflict, in her, the anxiety, the I guess anger, indecision, trepidation. But then she knows that she had to do it to save everybody, and
Yeah,
she did. And but at what cost, right?
and to be honest, for most of the episode, I was expecting, actually up until the end, I was expecting that red guy whose name I've completely escaped on, that she was working with, their priest, to turn out to be an aspect of Maldus, and the whole point of this exercise was to get her to let loose and cause pain and give in. And I was kind of surprised when he turned out to legitimately be a good priest character. Good in quotes, if his intent was to cause pain. There's questions there, but that was my read on the whole episode, was that was his goal, and that he was an aspect of Baldus to some form.
Yeah, no, it's good. I didn't pick up on that, but yeah, that'd be cool because that was kind of Maldus's MO, is to like psychologically mess with people and like wear them down. Because eventually, Crichton, 2 or 3 or 4 times, had Crais, dead to rights, let him go. Like, I'm not gonna do it. And then he just kept getting beaten down by Maldus. And finally, he's like, okay, fine, you win. I'm gonna kill him now. I have no other choice. I mean, he probably did, but Maldus just got through to Crichton, and he just gave up and submitted to his will. So yeah, it could have been the same idea that Zan was probably like we said before, the moral compass, the moral center of Moya's crew. So he had to break her down. Is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. Again, whether that was in the show or not, that's an interesting way to look at it. And she definitely has something to do with going forward.
And of course, comparing our sci-fi franchises, is Maldus like the Q of Farscape, possibly? He's this all-powerful, maybe, being. Obviously, he can transport people's spirits across how many systems, light years or not. I don't know how far away the ship was, but he seems to obviously have telepathy because he knows all about Crichton's, about Earth and wanting to get back. He said he didn't know how to get him back or where to go, which he's probably lying. I mean, if he's that powerful, he probably has some idea, maybe, or how to get Crichton home. But why does he care, right? He's not gonna tell him that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't set up a definition for how vast his power is, but it's definitely beyond our characters, right? I mean, no one else we've seen in this show has that level of power. And those type of characters, whether it's mystical, like we kind of get a feel for here, or if it's hyper advanced, like in the case of Q, where it's evolved to a higher level, it it's always interesting. Those make great foils for these type of shows because it gives you a what can be, or a higher power that can't be fought just with lasers and physically punching them normally, right? I mean, it took mystical power to make him punchable at a weak point. So it'll always be interesting to see if he comes back, if they reuse that or not. So
Yeah, it's kind of like you can't outmuscle him. You have to like outthink him or just outlast him. And yeah, I was trying to think. Did I remember him coming back in any of the seasons I watched? And I don't remember, but that doesn't mean he didn't. I just don't remember, or I didn't tie it back to this episode because I never saw it before. So it'd be interesting to see if they bring him back, or if it's kind of like one of those. Yeah, we got this super powerful guy that could do a lot of things. Yeah, maybe let's not go back to that again. Maybe it's a little too much. One and done.
but even so, he's always out there, right? I mean, it's a thought in the back of the characters' heads, at least.
Yeah, because I mean, he's not dead. They said he's just dispersed out there, and he'll eventually reintegrate, and he'll be back messing with somebody again. So who knows? I guess going back to last episode where we said Rigel got a lot of better character development. Here he's kind of back to being the comic relief where he's just doing his normal thing. Okay, he's gonna write John off. Okay, John's dead. I declare you dead. I'll perform the Hynerian rite of passage or whatever it was, a little modified. So he's not quite the full Hynerian. He got like the same kind of version, but at the end, because he did that, it's like, well, now all your stuff's mine. Thanks.
Which raises the question: how much stuff does John actually have? Right? I mean, one yellow NASA jacket or IASA jacket that probably won't fit Rigel.
Yeah,
But yeah, it isn't. It's more. It does fit with the character. He's definitely. It's not that he's regressed as much as he's still himself, right? Which is good. You kind of want him to still be Rigel.
yeah. He's recovered from his emotional roller coaster last episode, and now he's back to being his normal self. And then also when John wakes back up again, he's like, I brought you back to life. And John's like, I don't even care. Thanks a lot, Fluffy. Kiss. Like kisses him right in the face, and Rigel's like, what?
Yeah, which had to be fun for the puppeteer, but
Yeah, yeah. You kind of wonder what latex puppets taste like. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, don't get there.
Moving on.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, these were two solid episodes. It's only what this is the eighth episode, so they're really hitting their stride. Like I said before, from what I remember about the pattern of Farscape, and we got a lot of solid character development, a lot of great action, and yeah, it's solid storytelling on these two episodes.
Yeah, these are definitely my two favorites so far. So if we can keep up this pace and even this level of improvement, or just these same levels, this will be a fun rest of the season. So
Yeah, because we got like maybe 12 episodes to go in this season, and then another 60 some. So yeah, hopefully Yeah. Well, are they all gonna be this good? No, because 22 episode season or whatever. You can't. We know that. Hey, at least they got two good ones here.
Yeah, yeah. Except for the poor pilot. Yeah, he got left out, but uh, he did get a minute in the first one. But
Yeah, there wasn't much to do on this episode on the ship, so it was all planet side or in the little Maldus mental prison or whatever it was. All right. Any other comments or statements?
no, I think we've praised these quite a bit. These were two great episodes, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Yep. And speaking of next week, so next week we're up to season one, episode 9, DNA Mad Scientist, and then season one, episode 10, They've Got a Secret. And I would tell you that pay attention to the Wikipedia order instead of the Amazon order, but finally, or at least this time, they match. So Amazon and Wikipedia both have these as episode 9 and 10. So hopefully no more confusion. I think it's like one more time it flips, but otherwise the rest of the season it's pretty much the same order in both places. Yay.
Yeah, yeah. I won't promise no more confusion because we're on this show, but hopefully the season order won't be the cause of confusion.
Yeah, I'm always confused that this goes with the territory, but yeah, at least this time, episode wise, they aren't confused.
Right.
All right, so that's your homework for next time, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.